Okay, let's start with our fundament of the frame. You have to think about the frame as one of the most crucial and most important things of the machine. It not only holds everything together, but that's the main reason why we assemble the full machine, is we want to have a little bit input in the frame, so that there are two things which I always will do on a frame. The very first one is, we will use this to show you the spring in a proper size. So think about, this is the spring, and what we normally have is we have very symmetric, this thing, how we call this thing here, however we call this thing here, the place where the spring is on. Let me see how professionals call that. The spring saddle. So we will have the spring saddle here, and the spring saddle is usually, it's very straight. So first thing what we want, we have to think about that our spring is always going a little bit up, and as you can see here, very nice, that this spring is bent. It's bended like up. I don't want bent stuff, as the nicest solution always is to have springs and everything what is like spring related, everything on the machine as parallel and as perfect as possible. So you have to think about, we won't have the spring have to go up because we won't have force up. So I don't want bend the back spring. So the one thing what I easy can do, what I do to all my frames, is that I sand that part a little bit like this. So let me paint you that down. So I over painted a little bit. So what we do is we sanding off a part of the frame. To be more precise, this part of the frame. This we will kill, so that our new spring is able to be already like a little bit up. And that is the thing, you not just later can bend the spring, because that is in the frame. We want it as perfect as possible. You have to think about, this have to be perfect, because that is like this part here is, in my eyes, the most crucial part of the machine building. It tells you how far away is everything and so on. And there's where you can take a lot of influence already in the machine. And here you can see the distance A makes a lot. And think about a spring. The more distance you have in between, the more easy it is to bend something. No matter, it works. So think about the bend, you know. The smaller you bend, the harder it is to bend. And the wider you here, it's very easy to bend. And the same is here. I hold it here and you see how it bends. And I hold it here. It's very hard. You can hear that already. And that is something you have to keep in mind. The more distance you have, the softer the spring will be. And a lot of machines, they have like a very tiny spot here. Also, I know you can just take a spring with softer. But let me tell you one thing. We come to the springs later, but the softer the springs, the more the chances they break, because the less material in the spring. So instead of just having like a very small distance here, the very small distance A, we want to kind of have the distance better, a little bit bigger, and use a little bit a harder spring to have the same softness in the bouncy instead of using a very soft spring. So that's also something we can do already with a machine. And you see, I can already see on that machine that this is not straight. This is like very horrible. You never want this being not straight. What do I have here to show that here? You can see that? You can see that little gap in between? Yes, I hope you can. Because that, you see here, you see it very nice. You see that we have here, it is not in level. And this is like one of the most crucial things. This one is a little bit better, but it's also not perfect. So, as I said, this is the part where we want to spend all our time in. All our time in. And it's not a problem to give us a little bit more distance here. A lot of people, they just think they can just move that bar and move it forward. But that is a big problem. You cannot just move the bar too much forward, because as you can see, there comes the needle. And the needle is in the tube. And when you go too much forward, then the needle is pressing against the tube, and you won't have, on the ideal machine, you won't have the needle, it's as much as in the middle as possible. The more symmetric, the more perfect your full machine is, the better. So that means, let's give us a, damn this, I need like this little rubber. So I need this little rubber to simulate how the machine is. So that means, as you can see, when I want to be in the middle of the tube here, when I want to be in the middle of the tube, I have a very, very little distance here. And we want to raise that distance. We want to raise that distance. And it's very simple what we do. We will just remove a little bit there. And it's anyway a win-win situation, because then we can make it straight. So just mark it. And we basically make the same on the second machine. Oh man, this was like very horrible. Now, let me think. This is a little bit squeezed together. Sorry, we just fixed it. I don't know, it was like, this thing was bent a little bit too much, so I just like lifted it. No. Our tube fits. See, sometimes a little force can do the job. So here we do the same. We're checking where are we. And you see this frame is much better. On this frame we have a little bit more distance. But that was the frame where we have to take something off because it was so crooked. But here we just straight it out. We don't take too much off. So we just straight it out. And the thing is, we normally have a workbench here with a lot of things. They are like over there where all the camera gear is right now for the workshop. So I'm also very limited with what I do, but I think it's a good thing because it limits me to show you what you can do with like nothing. So we will just trying to use this thing to strap the machine on. And grind it off. So our number one main tool for making on the machines, it's a Dremel, and it's the big brother from the Dremel, this little baby. So let me start rough with the big one. So that looks a lot better already. And it's always good to have a couple of hand tools like this, which you can just like make the fine tuning. I absolutely don't worry about our frame right now because we will repaint it anyway. Maybe I will use this thing here better. Not because this is not working, just that I can put the frame a little bit more in my camera, that you all can see more what I do. And I mean, this is anyway a handy toy. And as you see, we already straightened it up a lot more. And you never ever want take the top corner, the top edge. You don't want round. So that's a very, very, very important thing. Whatever you sand here, corner X, most important. So our corner X is the most important thing what we have, and you want to keep that at as perfect as possible. You want to have 90 degrees, a perfect 90 degrees, and you want to have, yes, a little angle, what we will do now next, but you won't have this not rounded. All the other corners on the machine, you will see I will do that. We can round this up, we can go all wild and crazy, but this is the most crucial corner. This you want as sharp as possible. So now I'll take a little bit something different on that. I take this, and here I can recommend, when you not have so much experience, just take one of them, sand it down a little bit, take the time. Better you take more time, because there's no way back. When you remove the stuff, there's no way back. So, that looks not too bad. Let me quick strap that on the table. So I always will make the rough shape with like a bigger tool, and then using like a really big file like this to make it as perfect straight as possible. Okay, that's it. And I will do that with the other frame now also, and then we move on. You have to be gone a lot more, because here we want to increase the gap, what we mentioned before. We want to increase the gap A, and that we do with just removing a little bit from the spring saddle. Okay, that is how it looks now. As you see, we have a pretty perfect corner here, and we have it a little bit uplifted, and I removed a little bit to the back, so we should have a much bigger gap now. Just like roughly look, that is here in the middle, and I see already we have a much bigger gap, so that's what we want. And that is the most crucial part on the machine, where we can have influence in it. Another thing is no eye taking some weight off. So you don't have to do that when you're lazy, you don't have to do that. But I won't make them nice and pretty anyway. So I will take some weight off. I show you how I do that. So I kind of, what I do is I take the cutter and I tape it to my table. So and no, just have fun. Remove as much as you want, but don't over remove it. I see that we should cut off first. So yeah, I will just like speed forward, change my frame because there's no, it's only optimizing and how I want, and just make sure that you don't touch this corner because that's the crucial corner. Also where the frames and the coils sit on, you don't want to touch. You don't want to touch too much in the front. So I removed the things in the back. I made them a little bit more compact, a little bit round. I don't want to spend too much time. I just make it a little nicer now on the corners where I couldn't reach with the big one. And I sand it a little by hand. I put some paint on it and then our frames are ready. Okay, that's our frames now. I roughly sand that by hand. Make sure that you touch them and there's nowhere a sharp corner. And no, it completely depends on your taste. I personally like the rougher look of a machine, but you can now spend time to make it really perfect, make it straight, polish it. You would not even make that last step. Yeah, it's completely up to you. Just make sure there's no sharp corners. And I will, even when you like the metal look like this, the thing is, when you have cheap frames, cheap machines, it's cheap metal, but we already know cheap metal is very good for the magnetic field. It starts rusting and so on. So even when you like a rust luck, the patina luck look, just put it like in vinegar water and salt water, let it rust till what you like, and then they have like the special oil, you can treat it, and then you can put a couple of layers of glossy coat on it, of clear coat. Tiny tape. So I will put them in color now because I like to protect them. Also, it's more easy to clean them and keep them intact. Basically, you won't color them. The only thing what I don't want to color is the top. I just don't want color the top. So what I do is I put a sticker on that. I make the same here. And now we would need something like a scalpel. We don't. Can take a file. Just like a skateboard, file it off works also fine. So you see we have just the top protected now. And here we have to line it up on the front, because the front you don't want to file. That's our sharp corner, remember, that's the only corner on the machine which we really protected the full time. And now it's time to wrap that in color. Best is to make that outside, not inside like I do that now. Okay, this have to dry now, and then I will put 1 or 2 layers of clear coat over, and then we will move on to the next step.